to Meeting of the Minds. Today we're here with Tom Gant, former tennis professional, golf coach over at Nutley High School, golf private instructor. You name it, he's got it. He's the man. We're talking mindset today. Tom, welcome to the show.
Thank you very much. Good to see you, Gene.
Absolutely, absolutely. So let's take it from the top. What are some of your athletes doing at this time to improve? What should they be doing? Are they getting back to you? How are we looking?
Well, I work mainly with high school students at the moment, and they're a bit overwhelmed with some of their academics. But what we're doing with the varsity golf team is mainly through video. I send them instructional videos. They send me videos back. I've done a lot of video analysis of their swings. We've also done some work. It's a good time to actually work on different parts of the game because you're not out on the golf course worrying about a score. So we're making some swing changes, also working on some fitness things as well. And then, of course, golf lends itself to working on the mental aspects of the game as well. So I try to share some different activities in all those areas.
Nice. Yeah, mentally, what are you having the team do?
Well, listen, this is going to be a cheap plug, but this guy here, we do some work in from this guy. Have you ever heard of him?
Gene Zanetti, never heard of him.
Yeah.
Who is that bum?
He's got some great ideas. He's a good thinker and a positive thinker. Also, you may have heard of a Dr. Rotella.
I have.
A little more golf specific. There's a few others that have some good ideas and so forth. But mainly, I think at this time when we're not so result oriented, we can really focus on the process. And I think by doing that, we're able to also build some confidence. So I've been pretty excited about learning a little bit more about how to communicate those messages to the team.
Definitely. And we've talked a lot in the past, Coach, about you improving your own golf game with this, and how important the mental side of sports are. Whether it's tennis, whether it's golf, whatever, it really doesn't make a difference. They're life lessons. What was your mindset like back when you were competing? And then talk us through how you were able to, now how you're communicating a lot of those lessons to your athletes.
Well, like we've discussed so many times, you ask any athlete or any coach, and they'll tell you that, their particular sport is 75%, 90% mental. And then when we look at their practice schedules, how they're mapped out, there's very little attention spent to the mental side of it. So since meeting you, I've actually tried to make more of a mathematical balance, if you will, with myself. That's when I first came to you in my own tournament play, and then with my players as well. So, and again, in this period where you're not so result oriented, I think you can, do some reading, do some reflection, do some exercises that'll help you think a bit better. For golfers, that the idea is there's golf with your buddies on Saturday, and you might go shoot 75 on Saturday with your buddies, and then there's tournament golf, and they're kind of light years away. So it's getting that playing with your buddies in tournament golf to look very similar, performance wise.
Right.
In some of the activities, what I try to do a lot with the kids, and what I try to do with myself, is to develop routines.
Yes.
So that the same thing I'm doing on Saturday morning with my buddies is the same thing I'm doing, on Thursday morning at the tournament site. Right.
How important is that to practice the way you want to play the way you want to practice, so it's consistent all the way through?
I think, this is more your area, but what I've been really trying to focus in on is making practice have some more of that pressure that's in tournament play, try to infuse that into practice more.
Right. How do you build that? How do you build that in? I guess building in adversity, making it seem more like raising the stakes, right? A lot of times we're way too loose in practice and we're way too uptight in competition.
Exactly. So it's putting that pressure on in practice, whether it be, in tennis, we used to do things like, instead of playing with 3 tennis balls, you only rally with 1, and you'd be surprised. You don't want to chase the ball a lot, so you're getting more balls in play. So creating pressure in different ways. Tiger Woods' famous example, his father kind of making noises in his backswing and that sort of thing. He says, look, if you're going to play in front of thousands of people, you're going to be distracted and that sort of thing, whatever. But anything in practice, we try to make it more competitive. Maybe take some clubs out of the bag to make it more challenging, hitting different shots, putting players, behind a tree, giving them, difficult short shots that they would have to face under tournament conditions, and again, try to recreate that.
Absolutely. And I would think also a consistent tempo the whole time. I know that, we were working with different golf teams, even in college. The coaches were complaining that their tempo is totally different in practice than in the tournament. How important is that?
Absolutely. A good analogy would be in tennis. How many times have you seen someone win the first set 6-0 and they seem to be in command, and that tempo gets too fast, and now the next thing you know, they're down 2 or 3-0, 3-1 in the second because they've lost that tempo, lost that rhythm to playing. So, extremely important.
Yeah, we see that all the time. It's a big deal, and being able to they'll do a lot better in practice, may be great on the range, but they're not bringing it to the tee. So it's just something that, like you said, it's being more mathematical with it, making sure they're putting the time in. We're not saying, obviously, it's certainly not 100% mental, but if we're saying it's 70%, we want to make sure we're matching the amount of time we're putting in. So that is big. What are some of the other big mental struggles that you see the athletes making?
Well, I think that another phrase I like to use is train it and trust it.
Yes.
I think, if I've hit 1,000 7-irons, when I get out into a tournament, I trust that I'm going to hit the shot that I've hit, hundreds of times. So I think some players think, oh, they hit 2 or 3 good 7-irons or whatever it might be, and they're ready to go. So I think doing the work, the answers in the dirt, working it out, and then you've hit that shot 100 times. And then when you get out onto the course, a lot of what I do also is course management. It's one thing to have the shots, it's another thing to actually play the course as it's laid out in front of you.
That's right. Talk a little bit more about that course management. That's an important concept.
Well, we've just been able to get out recently. The course is in New Jersey. So the other day I was out playing, and I actually videoed me playing an entire par 4, what my thoughts were on the tee, how the hole was set up, where we wanted to attack it, how we wanted to play it, and just talk them through that par 4. Then a couple holes later, played a par 3 into the wind, and, club selection, where we want to stand, the type of shot we want to hit. So, to me, that's the beautiful thing about golf, is it's changing all the time. So it's so challenging. You could play the same course every day and play it differently almost every day. So.
Absolutely. And as you're saying these things, my mind's jumping back and forth, the different things you're saying. I love the training and trusting. Did I get that from Bob Rotella? Did I get that from Dennis Waitley? Chances are they're both saying it. I'm not sure, but that is a very, very important point. I remember when I heard it, it was basically maybe I think it was Rotella. I think it was Golf is Not a Game of Perfect, because I remember listening to that on a tape player back when I was competing in wrestling, and he said 70% of the shots you take should be with the trusting mentality, because that trust is what you're going to want to really have down, because that's what you're competing with. And then 30% with the training mentality, meaning thinking about mechanics and the little technical pieces.
Yes, I don't know if I don't think Rotella actually coined the phrase. I think it's been around even longer than that, but I think he kind of took it up maybe a level.
That was the first time I heard it.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's true. And perfectionism, back to that tape, was called Golf is Not a Game of Perfect. Talk about that with athletes. Do you see some of them too perfectionistic, while others maybe not perfectionistic enough? What are your thoughts there?
Yeah, I definitely do have some thoughts on it. And the book that I showed you here, Golf's a Game of Confidence. The Game of Perfect is over in the bookshelf over there. I think my experience, most younger athletes are at one end of the spectrum in the other.
Right.
They have no confidence. They don't feel they can pull off the shot. They don't feel they can make the putt. I'm just not that good. I'm not ready, coach. I don't have the tools, that sort of thing. And then there's some players on the other end of the spectrum that I would say tend to lean toward overconfidence. They feel that, they can accomplish anything, but at times they haven't put in the work, so they can't pull it off. So it's kind of like a double-edged sword there. My feeling is, as far as confidence goes, is that it doesn't guarantee success. Thinking positively doesn't guarantee success, but it puts you in a position where you can be successful. And conversely, thinking negatively is almost a guarantee for failure. So if you remember that anecdote that Rotella used in the book you mentioned, the boy, last name Anderson, playing in a state basketball championship, best player on the team, comes out, misses his first 8 shots. He's really struggling. Game gets down to the wire. He's having a horrible night. Coach calls the play for someone else, and he goes, "No, coach, I've got this." And of course, as the story goes, he makes the shot. I think he was from Virginia, and his team wins the state tournament. Afterwards, they asked the boy, why did you want the ball at the end? You were playing horribly, shooting horribly. He goes, because I know I'm a 50% shooter from the field. So every time I missed a shot, I figured I was that much closer to making the next one. So, trying to instill that sort of mentality is what I'm trying to do with my players.
Absolutely. Absolutely. That's great. And I think back to Aristotle, he spoke about the golden mean. You don't want to be too far to one side or too far to the other side. Virtue lies being in the middle. And of course, at some points in time, you have to shift your weight one way or the other, right? We tell our athletes a lot, you want to be simultaneously your own best friend and harshest critic. And just like you said, Coach, that people tend to be more on one side rather than the other. And it's knowing how to shift that weight, finding that balance. Maybe even the better word is that right optimal point for you in that moment.
Exactly. I'm glad you touched on that. And I like the phrase optimal point, because, there's this point that we're trying to find, like you said, in the middle. We know we're playing in a tournament, and it has some level of importance, or at least our attention. But how do you get over a 3-foot putt and say to yourself, it doesn't really matter? I just going to put the best stroke on it that I can. If it goes in, it goes in. If it doesn't, it doesn't. And that's really at the heart of it, that trying to find that optimal point there.
It is, absolutely. And how do you see at the different levels? Because you've seen now from high school, college, professional level in 2 sports.
Right.
What seems to be the differences that you see as the athletes mature? Because you're always going to deal with different mental struggles at different points in the career.
I think the foundation that the athlete has built earlier on and built upon will serve them much better as they get older and going up levels, because the biggest difference, I feel, is the speed of the game as you progress. whether it's tennis or basketball or football, whatever it might be, the decision making has to be that much quicker, has to be that much more acute. You go to a professional golf tournament and you look on the range, everyone hits the ball great. Why isn't Gene winning? Why isn't Tom winning? Why isn't Bob winning? So what separates those few guys from those other guys? And I think, they have that optimal point, if you will. They have it more often. So the further up you go in a lot of sports, speed is important, and the quality of player is tremendous. So there's a fine line between success and maybe second place or third place or something in that nature.
Absolutely. And I know we're hitting on a lot of this already, but what are some of your personal philosophies and lessons that you really try to hone in on instilling for your kids? I know we already hit on some of this already.
Yeah, no, I got you. Well, in golf, it really is an individual sport. We're in a team setting, and there's a team score at the end of a high school match or a college match, but it's really an individual sport. So the beauty of it is I might be going out and playing with Gene, who's on the opposing team, but I really try to focus in on playing your game, trying to execute what you're able to do, and the results will take care of themselves. If Gene bombs one 300 yards, I can't try to swing out of my shoes and hit it 300 yards. I know I'm a 250, 260 guy. I play position golf. I don't make mistakes. That's how I play. So that would be like one of the main things that I try to get my kids to do, is to develop their own game and then play your own game. Have a game plan, a strategy going out to playing a course, and try not to deviate from that when someone else is, making a birdie or doing something great or doing something poorly, whatever it might be. Just kind of focus on what you're doing.
Yep, that's why we came up with the whole predator and prey analogy, because it's so simple to say, but it's not easy to internalize when all we've been thinking about our whole life is outcomes, comparing to other people. What do other people think about me? Mm-hmm. So I said, this is a big challenge.
I think another great analogy would be like in like a swimming or a track event where it's a timed event. If my best time in whatever the event is a 1 minute 8 seconds, and I come in at 1 minute 2 seconds, and I finish second to Gene the running machine, I feel like that's got to be a success for me. Right. So I really try to, and I've done that in everything I've coached and participated in, is try to just prepare my teams the best that we can, and then whatever happens on the scoreboard, all we could do is prepare the best we can. That's all we could do.
Right. And it seems like as the levels go up, or even at a young age, the best competitors, they love to win, they hate to lose, but they're not defining themselves by the outcomes relative to other people. I remember hearing from Louis Simmons from Westside Barbell. I don't even know if I made mention of it in my book, but he said that he could tell the power lifters that they have the strongest gym in the world, Westside. And he said he could tell a good power lifter from an average one when he asks how they did in their competition. If they speak in terms of what place they took, he says that's not really it. He wants to know, did they PR or not? Did they set a personal record?
Right.
That's what you're saying there.
Exactly. And as you were talking, it reminds me again with golf, if you watch closely at a professional tournament, there's 2 or 3 guys playing in a group, or 2 or 3 women playing in a group. When another player's hitting, the other players don't watch.
Right.
They don't watch. They don't care where you hit the ball. They're doing what they're doing. And at the end of the day, they're trying to shoot their best score, play their best golf, hit the best possible shot at that moment. And they, if someone, holes it out from 60 yards or something, hey, nice shot, but they're not paying attention. So I think that's a good way to think about it, a good way to kind of visualize being in your own world, so to speak, and enjoying the process instead of, like you said, being so result oriented.
Yeah. And I don't know if you ever thought about this, Tom, but one of the things that always popped into my head watching the Olympics, watching a lot of times football, a lot of the athletes, they don't have that same kind of mentality where, let's say, gymnastics or figure skating, a lot of times their teammates and their opponents are watching their opponents or their teammates compete and even cheering them on. And what that does to you mentally, and you could feel it in your stomach, and they do well or they don't do well, your stomach goes up and down, the wheels are really turning in your head. My thought is, I would think in those kind of sports the same thing you're saying. Why watch? If I was training a kicker in football, I don't think I'd have them really watch the game, because does that really matter what the score is? Where's the ball on the field? How many yards? Kick the ball. Who cares if you're winning, losing, or tied?
That's a good point. Why watch the game? Right.
It sounds crazy because it makes it seem like you're a bad teammate, but you're helping the team by not focusing on the team.
Right. I mean, a kicker should probably, I've never thought about it, but a kicker in football should probably develop a routine just like a free throw shooter in basketball. And I used to have my basketball players write on a 3x5 card their routine. So if Tommy, had his routine, he bounces it 3 times, deep breath, and goes, and that's what he's doing in the first quarter. Well, if the game's on the line in the fourth quarter and the official hands the ball, and where's the 3 bounces? Where's the deep? Oh, timeout. Let's regroup here. So yeah, a kicker should probably not pay attention to the game at all.
Which maybe sounds crazy, but I think we're dealing with humans. We're dealing with people. Human nature is human nature. If it's going to make an athlete in one sport nervous, it's going to make an athlete in another sport nervous. Doesn't make a difference that if it's UFC or bowling. They're people. They're people. So if it's going to make one person nervous, it's probably going to make the other person nervous. I don't know. That's good stuff, Tom. And then how about, as you were playing competitively at a high level, you've probably played in some big time stadiums, competed against some top people. What was that like? How did you keep your nerves in check and confidence?
Truth is I love the more people, the better. So maybe it's being the youngest of 5, and maybe I didn't get enough attention as a child or something, but I love that. So, even for the weekend golfer who has the first tee jitters or whatever, the more people around the tee, the better. The more people watching a tennis match, and then once the ball's coming at you at 100 miles an hour, you that everything goes away anyway. That all goes away. So.
Where are some of the best environments you played, or some of the top people you've competed against?
Well, in tennis, I didn't play I was mediocre at best, to tell you the truth. Played some decent players in college, also a few afterward, but I was kind of like maybe AA, like baseball level in tennis. But for me, it was an opportunity to put off getting a real job for a while. And then my first real job was a head tennis professional at a club in upstate New York. So
nice.
And now I teach physical education as well. So some will say I still haven't had a real job yet, but no, I mean, tennis for me was more about the fitness aspect of it, about pushing myself to just kind of be the best I could be. Had some decent results in some tournaments, one in Philadelphia, one in Atlantic City, one somewhere up in upstate New York, but never quite cracked through to, that big time sort of big money tennis.
That's still awesome. And yeah, same thing here. I'm doing basically everything I possibly can to avoid a real job. So it's when you love what to do, when you love what you do, it's not work.
Not a job. Yeah.
Exactly. Awesome. Right. So how do we find more information about you, about your team? Are there websites? I don't know, YouTube pages, social media? Where can we bring people to you?
Well, we use a program called VNN. V is in Victor, N as in Nancy, that a lot of our high school teams are on. Now that we're in this situation where we haven't been in school, you know, it's probably not even up right now, but that's what we do for the teams. For me personally, I have an Instagram at Tomgrantgolf, email Tomgrantgolf, just like it sounds, spelled at Gmail. Again, I also work with the First Tee program of Metropolitan New York out of Weequahic Park in Newark, which is a fantastic program. And you know, anytime anyone wants to stop by Weequahic, we have a great private range there. I would love to take a look at their swing.
Awesome. We'll make sure we link that on the show notes on the YouTube page. So thank you very much, Tom Grant. Excellent. Great stuff. Tennis, golf, mindset, you name it. We spoke about it. Great stuff. We'd love to have you again. Talk soon.
Okay. Thank you.
All right. Take care.
Be well. Be well.
You too.